If you're searching for the fastest way to learn the Arabic language and you are tired of feeling lost, overwhelmed, or stuck in endless grammar explanations, this video is for you because I will teach you how to learn the Arabic language as fast as how I tie my turban before I talk to you. You know, most people who try to learn Arabic never fail because Arabic is hard. You know what they fail? Is because they start in the wrong place with the wrong things. In this video, I will take you deep into the classical scholarly books and extract for you clear guidance from scholars like Ibn Faris, like Ibn Khaldun, to answer one critical question. How should you start learning Arabic if you want real progress as fast as possible? This is not theory, this is not modern guessing. This is Arabic language learning explained by scholars who understood language at its roots. I will show you why so many students of knowledge learning the Arabic language as beginners, they get trapped in a never-ending, never-progressing cycle of grammar. They study rules, they memorize terms, but they never speak, they never understand, and eventually they give up. Instead, you will see what scholars themselves emphasize first and how to build Arabic step by step until you can understand the Quran and the Sunnah directly without a translator. That's our goal as Muslims. Before we begin, a quick note for those who are serious of you to learn the Arabic language. If you want a proven Arabic course that is a step-by-step system with teacher feedback, structure, and accountability, check the first link in the description. There you will also be able to see Arabic stories from our students at Andalus Institute, how they learned themselves and how at one point they started and right now they are at a point where they're able to read, to listen, and more importantly, to understand the Quran on their own. If you have ever asked yourself how to learn the Arabic language without wasting years, this video will finally give you clarity. So let's get into it, inshallah. What is the Arabic language and why grammar is in the starting point? Most people complicate the Arabic language before they even begin, in a way whereas they psychologically tell themselves that they are learning Arabic grammar. And this is something that when I met Dr. Abdul Rahim, rahimahullah, the author of the Medina books, the books that are studied in the Medina University in Saudi Arabia, in the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that for some reason people, when they learn the Arabic language, they tell themselves, I am learning Arabic grammar, as if Arabic grammar or grammar was the language itself. And you guys can hear it from himself here.
You see, in languages, you ask people, what language are you learning? He says, I'm learning Spanish, I'm learning French, I'm learning Russian. But if you ask a man who's learning Arabic, he doesn't say, I'm learning Arabic. He says, I'm learning Arabic grammar. There's a mindset which is wrong.
So they enter Arabic as if it's a math subject. Rules first, charts first, i'rab first, terms first. And what happens is that they feel like Arabic is too hard. They quit before they even say a basic sentence. But Arabic, at its core, it's not grammar. Arabic is a language, and a language is something you build as a skill, not something you solve like an exam. You don't need to understand every rule to start communicating. You need to start acquiring words first, using them, and then building a real ability inside of you, your tongue, a trait that is part of you now. Is rasikh عندك, is thabit, is part of you. That's why the scholars, when they speak about the language, they speak about two things: vocabulary and the laws or qawaneen, or yani the rules that organize vocabulary, that puts together in a sentence to make sense of that vocabulary. Not the terms first, the qawaid, the principles first, then maybe words later. And that brings me to the quote that proves this phenomenon that I'm saying, by a scholar from hundreds of years ago, considered as a Arabic language scholar. Now, this scholar, his name is Ibn Sida al-Andalusi. He was one of the scholars from Al-Andalus, and he's considered a scholar in the Arabic language. He has his own dictionary, and he is one of the references when it comes to the Arabic language, the classical Arabic language found in the Quran and the Sunnah. He says اللسان ليس مقصورا على اللسان والعربي فحسب بل هو حد شامل له ولكل لسان وهو ضربان أحدهما حفظ الألفاظ الدالة لكل لسان وما يدل عليه لشيء منها وذلك كقولنا طويل قصير عامل عالم جاهل والثاني and the second thing والثاني في علم قوانين تلك الألفاظ ومعنى القوانين أقاويل جامعة تنحصر في كل واحد منها أشياء كثيرة مما تشتمل عليه تلك الطريقة حتى يأتي على جميع الأشياء التي هي مصوغة للعلم بها أو على أكثرها. وابن سيدة هو أول من استعمل كلمات أو كلمة اللسانيات كما ورد في مقدمة المحكم. So he says language is not limited to Arabic alone, as in the knowledge of how to learn a language is not limited to Arabic alone, but rather it is a universal concept that applies to all languages. And this is something that, obviously when we come to many of our students at Andalus Institute, for example, learning the Arabic language is the second language that they are learning. They know two languages now, or they know one language, which is their mother tongue, and the second language, which is learn the Arabic language. So they think that all of these rules and all of these ways and all of this, when it comes to the concepts of how to learn a language, they think is only for the Arabic language. But Ibn Sina here, he clearly says language, as in, linguistics, how to learn a language, is not limited to Arabic alone. Then he says, the first is the memorization of words and expressions that signify meaning in every language, such as tall, short, worker, scholar, ignorant. So this is the first step. Knowing these words, knowing what each of these words mean, what context you can put them in, etc. Then the second is knowledge of the laws that govern these words. These laws, qawaneen, are universal principles that encompass many expressions which within each rule. They enable a comprehensive understanding of how language is structured for the purpose of knowledge and expression. Tamam. So the second part is these rules. What is a mubtada? What is a khabar? What is a maf'ul bihi? What is mabni lil majhul? What is al munada? What is al munada al ghayr maqsuda wal maqsuda? And all of these different things that you then can take these words and use these rules so you can make sense of them. And of course, this might sound like a lot of theory right now. Bear with me before we go into the practicality, but it's important, as we said, for you to understand what are you doing before you even do it. Understand what it is before you even get into doing it. And then Ibn Sina was the first one to use the term linguistics as found in the introduction of his book, Al-Muhkam. Now I need you to reflect on this. He said the language is of two parts. First is hifdhul alfaz, memorizing terms, memorizing nouns, memorizing vocabulary. You collect vocabulary, you build your word bank. Then part two is al-qawaneen, the rules that govern those words. But what do most people do? They walk into Arabic and they start with the actual qawaneen, the actual principles, the actual rules, as if that is the whole language. So they spend months on grammar terms and they still can speak. And I've seen people who have graduated from known marakis, known centers in Egypt that are known for being grammar heavy. And at the end of it, they still cannot speak or maintain a regular conversation. They can do a lot of breaking sentences in a paper, but they cannot speak. So what happens is that their heart breaks because it feels like nothing is moving, and that's when they quit. The correct path is build vocabulary and use it first. Then let grammar come in as a tool that organizes and sharpens what you already have. And that leads me to quote number 2 to prove this thing that I'm saying, and that further explains what Al-Imam Ibn Sida, al-Imam in the Arabic language, said. And this quote is from the book of Ibn Khaldun, who is known as a historian and a sociologist in the Muslim world. And even those who are not Muslim that are in this field, they have used this book, Al-Muqaddimah, or Tarikh Khaldun, or Tarikh Ibn Khaldun, sorry, as a reference for history and different periods of history and so on. And the whole book, it talks about how dynasties grow and what is the common thing that happens with dynasties. They grow with asabiya, they grow with, staying together and nationalism and feeling like you from that country. Then once they are up and they have luxuries, they fall because of it, just like it happened to Andalus, just like it happened to most of the dynasties. And this is why he is a great historian and a great sociologist, because he's able to understand from a social aspect what happens for a dynasty, for an empire to grow and then collapse. And obviously he was a scholar in the Arabic language as well, and very strong in the Arabic language. In his book he says, اعلم أن اللغة في المتعارف هي عبارة المتكلم عن مقصوده، وتلك العبارة فعل لساني ناشئة عن القصد لإفادة الكلام، فلا بد أن تصير ملكة متقررة في العضو الفاعل لها وهو اللسان، وهو في كل أمة بحسب اصطلاحاتهم، وكانت الملكة الحاصلة للعرب من ذلك أحسن الملكات وأوضحها إبانة عن المقاصد، لدلالة غير الكلمات فيها على كثير من المعاني، مثل الحركات التي تعين الفاعل من المفعول من المجرور. So this is actually so interesting, which I would love to just make a video on this. But what we are trying to focus on right now is what Al-Imam Ibn Khaldun here, the great historian, mentioned about the Arabic language. He says that language is the expression of the speaker about what he intends, right? So you feel sad, you intend to say that you are sad. So you say, Ana hazin. You feel hungry, your intent is to express that you are hungry. Ana jaw'an. Your intent is to greet this person. So you say, Assalamu alaikum, marhaba. Your intent is to say, what is your name? So you go ahead and with words, you express that intent that you have. And that expression is a linguistic action arising from the intent to convey speech. Therefore, it must become a firmly rooted faculty in the organ that performs it, namely the tongue. And it differs in every nation according to their conventions. He also said, as for the science of language, it is the knowledge of individual words and how they are structured and applied. So here we have a few fawaid and a few myth-breaking rules that we can extract from this qawl of Ibn Khaldun. So first he says that the Arabic language, or the language in general, speaking a language, is to be able to convey what you intend to say. You convey what you intend to say. So this means that for somebody who's a perfectionist like me, for example, one problem that I had when I was learning the Arabic language is that in the beginning, you want to say everything correctly. So that makes you it inclines you towards wanting to know all grammar rules. And as well, you have izzah, you have honor, you don't want to be laughed at and so on. So you want to say everything correctly. So what happens is that for long months, sometimes even years, you are so stuck in the rules. But the purpose of the language is to convey a meaning. Whether it's correct or wrong, if the person understands what you're trying to say, even if you use sign language to support your speech and he understands it, you are speaking the language. You might not be 100% fluent, but you are speaking the language. And this is why Andalus Institute, I say that after 14 lessons, students are speaking the Arabic language because they are fully relying on Arabic.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله أولا يا ربيب. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله أنا بخير، وأنت أستاذ؟ الحمد لله أنا بخير. ما اسمك يا أخي؟
اسمي ربيب.
ومن أين أنت؟
أنا من أستراليا.
ما شاء الله. أي مدينة في أستراليا؟
مدينة سيدني.
سيدني، ما شاء الله. وكم عمرك الآن؟
أبلغ من عمري 24 عام.
ما شاء الله. وهل عشت حياتك كلها في سيدني؟
نعم، أنا مولود في سيدني.
ما شاء الله. ووالداك من أي بلد؟
هما من بنغلاديش.
ما شاء الله. وهل لك إخوة وأخوات؟
نعم، أخ وأخت فقط.
مهم. طيب، ما هذا يا ربيب؟
هذا قلم رصاص.
جميل. وما هذا؟
3 أقلام.
جميل. هل أي اسم إشارة من الأسماء من أسماء الإشارة، إما ذلك، تلك، هذه كل أسماء الإشارة هذه كيف تقول؟
هذه نعم.
تمام، جميل. هذه إيش؟
هذه
ماذا؟
3 أقلام.
جميل، هذه 3 أقلام. تمام. وهل تظن أن هذا القلم الرصاص جديد أم قديم؟
أظن جديد أستاذ.
لماذا؟
كلهم طويلة.
نعم، كلها طويلة.
كلها طويلة، نعم.
Their speech is not 100% correct, obviously. We still haven't gone through a bunch of chapters of grammar and morphology, but they are able to convey what they want to say in Arabic. And then they are able to, if they don't understand something is being taught to them, they are able to ask in Arabic, what does this mean? This is the first thing that we extract from this, from the qawl of Ibn Khaldun. The second thing is, he says that the expression is a linguistic action, right? That comes from al-lisan, linguistic action. In Arabic, he says, nashi', that it comes out of al-lisan. And therefore, it must be a firmly rooted faculty in the organ that performs it. And this is a myth breaking for all of those, most of the time, students of knowledge, lil asaf, sadly, that because of either insecurity that they are not able to speak correctly themselves, or because they just not inclined towards wanting to put effort into increasing their capability in speaking, they tend to spread this myth of, oh, you don't need to speak the language. You just need to understand, because we are trying to learn the Arabic language to understand the Quran and to understand the Sunnah. Therefore, I don't need to understand. I don't need to be able to speak it. I just need to be able to understand when I'm reading. And this is from amongst the biggest nonsensical things that you can say. Because even Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran about the Arabic language, lisanun Arabi. So the reason why we call lisan as in tongue, that's the default meaning of lisan Arabi. And even language, if you go back to the root in the Latin and where it comes from lingua, which means tongue. And so, as Ibn Khaldun, he says, language is something that is a trait in your tongue. It's something that comes out of your tongue. So it needs to be a firmly rooted trait in your tongue. You need to be able to speak it before anything. Likewise, the Arabic language, before the scholars that put in Nahu, like Abu al-Aswat al-Du'ali and Khalil ibn Ahmad and the scholars that are referenced in the Arabic language, before the Sahaba wanted to preserve the Quran, the Arabic language was a language, a lugha mantuqa. It was a pronounced language. It was used to speak it only. There wasn't no rules. It was barely being written, and only a few qabail, a few tribes of the Arabs, they used to write the Arabic language. And so when it comes to this myth of you don't have to speak the language, this qawl from many others that I just picked this one as an example. This qawl is what breaks that myth of, oh, you don't need to speak the language because you just want to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. Likewise, then Al-Imam Ibn Khaldun, he says, وَأَمَّا عِلْمُ اللُّغَةِ فَهُوَ مَعْرِفَةُ أَفْرَادِ الْكَلِمِ وَكَيْفِيَةِ أَوْضَاعِهَا. As for the science of language, it is the knowledge of individual words and how they are structured and applied. So, علم اللغة, even if we look at the ayah where Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. After He has mentioned that He has created Adam, then He taught Adam how to speak. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. And Allah Azza wa Jal taught Adam all of the words. If you go to Tafsir ibn Kathir, Ibn Abbas, he was asked, did Allah Azza wa Jal taught Adam the words like was-sahfa, which are, names to describe a pot, something you put food in it, like a plate. And then Ibn Abbas, he said, yes, hatta al-fuswa wal-fasiyya, which is passing wind, to emphasize on how much and how detailed did Allah Azza wa Jal gave Adam from the vocabulary that for someone, and this brings me to the myth of many students of knowledge. What they say is, why do I want to learn this book? Like, they might talk about Arabi Benedik, they might talk about other books. They say, why am I learning this book? Why am I learning to say tomatoes? Why am I learning to say clouds? Why am I learning to say trees? Why am I learning when I want to understand the Quran and the Sunnah? And this is one of the biggest problems of, I know it all type of students, because, I know a few fatawiyat and I have memorized a few ahadith and I've memorized a couple of juz from the Quran, so I know what I need. So imagine somebody who wants to lose weight, he goes to a coach and he says, why do I have to track my food? Why do I have to weight my food? All I want to do is eat healthy. So I'm just going to eat salad. So is you going to the expert and telling him, no, I know what I need, even though you don't even have experience in it. So here, Ibn Khaldun, he says that al-lugha is knowing afrad al-kalima, knowing vocabulary, afrad al-kalim, wa kayfiyat awda'iha, and how to put them together to make sense of it. And this is so powerful because Ibn Khaldun is telling you something people ignore. Language is a malaka. It's something that you possess, a skill, a faculty in within yourself. So something that becomes rooted in your tongue through repeating and through speaking a lot. And this is why in Andalus issue we have speaking sessions, which I will show you in a little bit. And we consider these as being from amongst the most important things, speaking, because speaking is the skill that will make any other linguistic skill strong.
Now we're going to introduce yourself. We're going to learn how to introduce yourself. Just before that, I want to know, how would you differentiate between a male and a female when it comes to greeting? So, say for example, I'm a female. What would you say, Akhi Mikola? To me, if I'm a female, for example.
What greeting, like?
So how would you greet me? If you was to greet a female, how would you greet me?
Oh, okay. Assalamu alayki, I think.
Very good. Assalamu alaykum. How would you say, how are you?
كيف حالك?
كيف حالك? And how would you say, what's your name?
ما اسمك?
Okay, very good. And now change that to a male. So how would you say, Salama? Go on.
Assalamu alayka.
Very good. Assalamu alayka. And then going down, how are you?
كيف حالك?
And what's your name?
ما اسمك?
Masmuk. Very good. So today we're going to learn these three questions, and inshallah in the future we're going to add more to these questions to introduce yourself. How to introduce yourself. So let's stick to these three questions. How are you? The greetings. How are you? What's your name and where are you from? Let's stick to them 4 questions, okay? So I want you to start it. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Kada. I am from Kada. And so my name, I'm from, okay. You understand? So obviously when you're in a dialogue, that's a monologue. When you're in a dialogue, you'd say, how are you? I'll ask you, how are you? And then you answer that question. So just introduce yourself, and I'll ask you the questions, and then you introduce yourself, okay? So we're going to have a dialogue, okay? So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What would you respond?
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
كيف حالك؟
أنا بخير وأنت؟
الحمد لله أنا بخير. ما اسمك؟
اسمي نيكولاي.
نيكولاي.
وأنت؟
نيكولاي أو نيكولاي؟ من نون أو بالميم؟
نيكولاي.
بالميم. ميكولاي. جيد. مرحبا بك يا أخي ميكولاي. أنا اسمي عفان. اسمي عفان. من أين أنت يا أخي ميكولاي؟
أنا من بولندا.
بولندا. ممتاز. you forgot about me يا أخي.
وأين أنت؟ من أين أنت؟
ومن أين أنت؟ أنا من بريطانيا. أنا من بريطانيا. Very good. So now.
So this is why the fastest way to learn Arabic is not being drowned in grammar. It's to build the language as a living ability. You collect words in context. You use those words in speech. You get corrected quickly. You repeat until the tongue becomes trained. And then grammar comes in at the right time, like a tool. It redefines you. It makes you accurate. It makes you understand deeper. But it's not the foundation for fluency. Vocabulary and usage are the foundation when it comes to learning the Arabic language. So the point of this chapter is, if you want to have the fastest path and follow the fastest path to learning the Arabic language, becoming fluent, stop asking what is the rule and start asking what are the words I need and how do I use them in a real sentence today. Because the one who learns the Arabic language in the beginning, like a grammar class, and every time he's been told something, he tries to understand why he's being told like this, when even the person that's using it is not even thinking of why is it being used like that with those rules. Why did he say ضرب وليس ضربي وليس ضرب or ضرب or ضربا or ضرب? It will burn you out very early. But the one who learns Arabic, like it is a skill, a malaka, something that is a trait and a living language, you speak it first, he will progress faster. He will stay motivated. And most important, he will reach the point where grammar actually benefits him instead of suffocating him and draining his mental strength, trying to understand why this is being said like this. And before we get into the practicality on how to acquire this, I want to read to you another quote from this book, عناية الصحابة باللغة العربية وأثره في النهوض بها, which is a book that was prepared by an Majma al-Lugha al-Arabiya, which is in Mecca, which is a place where they do, it's like a center in Mecca where they do a lot of works towards the Arabic language. And this is from amongst those works. And this put together by a ustad called Muhammad ibn Mabkhut. Muhammad ibn Mabkhut. And he is part of this Majma. And he did a research about the importance that the Sahaba gave to the Arabic language. Now, in this book, he brings a quote by Ibn Faris from the book As-Sahibi fi Fiqh al-Lugha al-Arabiyya. And he mentions something similar to what Ibn Khaldun said. And Ibn Faris, of course, very known scholar as a reference in the Arabic language. He says, إن لعلم العرب أصلا وفرعا أما الفرع فمعرفة الأسماء والصفات كقولنا رجل وفرس وطويل وقصير وهذا هو الذي يبدأ به عند التعلم. This is the important keyword that I want to get. وهذا الذي يبدأ به عند التعلم. وأما الأصل فالقول على موضوع اللغة وأوليتها ومنشأها ثم على رسوم العرب في مخاطبتها وما لها من الافتنان تحقيقا ومجازا. And here we have as well a bunch of fawaid that we can extract from here to know how to approach learning the Arabic language from the scholars themselves from hundreds of years ago, not contemporary scholars or anything like that. Now he says the first branch or Lugha al-Arabiya is two things, a branch and a foundation. The first is the branch. It's knowing nouns and adjectives, sifat, such as saying the man, the horse, tall, short. And he says, وَهَذَا الَّذِي يُبْدَأُ بِهِ عِنْدَ التَّعَلُّمِ. This is what a learner starts with when learning a language. As for the foundation, al-asl, so it says two things, a branch and a foundation. As for the foundation, it is speaking about the subject of the language itself, نعم, i.e. فالقول على موضوع اللغة, and then about the ways how it began and where it came from, and then about the ways Arabs speak when they communicate and how their speech is precise, both in literal meaning and in figurative meaning. So what does this mean? First, you learn the branch, which is the vocabulary, the nouns, the adjectives, the sifat. And this is what he said, this is what you start with learning. Then there is the foundation, which is knowing how the Arabs spoke with these words, how they communicated with the speech, literal meaning and figurative meaning. Let me give you an example. If you're learning the English language and you learn the word run, okay? Now you know what run means, the default meaning. However, now you're going to see somebody who's a native speaker and he will say, man, I ran out of money, man. I got to run it up. In the same sentence, he uses run with two different meanings. Now, so this is what he means by, learn the speech of the Arabs, both in literal meaning and in figurative meaning. So what does I ran out of money mean? And what does it mean I got to run it up in certain dialects in the US? Now, the river runs next to my house. Now I run a business. So with the Arabic language, you do the same thing. For example, something that most of you, even if you are beginning, you will know most of the times what dars means, right? Ad-darsu, the default meaning is lesson. However, ad-dars can come, and what it really means in the Arabic language as an asl is atharun ala shay, an effect that was caused on something. So you can say, for example, خافت العرب أو خاف العلماء على الدروس في اللغة. The scholars, they fear الدروس في اللغة. If you only know lessons as dars, and you don't know the asl of the kalima, that it means to affect something, then you read this sentence, you say, what do you mean? The ulama got scared of the durus upon the language. So if you go back to the meaning, to the original meaning, ad-dars is an effect, and it could be a negative effect, right? So you say when the ajam, when the foreigners came into the peninsula, the Arabic peninsula, there was a dars that happened in the Arabic language. There was an effect, right? And there was some sort of corruption that happened to the classical Arabic language. And by understanding the source meaning of darasa, you understand what at-tadris means better. At-tadris, to teach something, it means to repeat something to someone until that information affects his heart. I.e., I would repeat something to you so many times until it's part of you, until you know it, until it's part of you, of the knowledge that you have. So this is why when you learn the Arabic language, first you learn the vocabulary. Second, you learn how this vocabulary is used in context, figurative, non-figurative, so that way you are able to speak like the people speak. You don't just go to the dictionary and find run and say, what is this person is earning? I gotta run it up. I run out of money. The dictionary doesn't say this. Why? Because these are things that are spoken. So likewise, the Arabic language is a spoken language, and you need to take it from the natives to know how to use it. So this is the theory. Now let's get into the practicality on how to make this happen. So the way how we do it at Andalus Institute, here I am in the dashboard. When you first go to the dashboard, you will see that you have different levels. So if I go into the first level, so I show you the first lesson on how to actually put this method of learning a language into practice, which is by memorizing vocabulary in context, so you understand that vocabulary, how the Arabs use it. So first you will go ahead and watch the lesson. So as you can see, first you go over the vocabulary lesson. You take new vocabulary, new expressions, you write it on your محفظة المفردات, which we provide to you. Then you learn certain durus, like pronouns in this case. And then I teach you, for example, how to memorize it. And so the point is that you watch the lesson, you learn how this vocabulary is being used in context from contextual texts, then you write it in your vocabulary wallet, and then you memorize it. Then once you feel ready, you mark this as watched, and you go ahead and book a call with your instructor. Tamam. So in this case, as you can see here, I have Ustad Yusuf, and students as well, if their Ustad doesn't have enough available slots, they can go ahead and check other instructors as well, or other available times with those instructors. And then what you do is you go ahead and you book a call with one of the instructors. And as you can see now, I have a booked appointment with my instructor that you can make sure you don't miss by looking at the class calendar. You will receive a message as well. So as you can see, it's this one right here. And when it's time to join, you go ahead and join the lesson. Now, the question is, what happened in this lesson, which I'm going to show you right now. So here, as you can see, I have something called the instructor calls guide. Now, this is something the instructor will have, but I will show it to you so you understand the context of what I'm trying to show you. You will actually have your own guide, but this is more explanatory of what actually happens and what is the thought process behind it. So the instructor will, in the beginning, congratulate you that you have reached that level, and then he will show you the roadmap. So in this case, the lesson that we just booked a call for is part of the A1 levels, which is the first lesson. Now, as you can see, in this part of this, in this stage, for the A1 from lesson 1 to 10, the goal is for you to memorize 500 Arabic root words, handle basic everyday interactions with memorized phrases, reduce language switching, speak at 20 to 40 words per minute, and read at around, if it gets to 30 words per minute, then that will be perfect. And whatever is below, then that's normal. And here we are going to make you be capable of greet people and introduce oneself, ask and answer simple personal questions, name, age, nationality, how are you, talk about family, daily routines, weather, understanding, use basic pronouns, recognize and read short text with harakat, follow very simple instructions or announcements. Now, the point of this guide is that the instructor, all instructors, we are doing the same thing, which is making you go through this roadmap until the end of the program. And as you can see, the roadmap, it gets from a very simple goal to a more advanced goal on B2 level. Now here, for lesson 1, the instructor is going to be following all of these. So hold a short exchange using only familiar vocabulary such as greetings, asking one's state, name, asking and responding to how someone is doing. So you would go to the call that we booked here, which I show you already. Tamam, this one right here. Okay, so it's happening in 5 days. And so the instructor will walk you through this lesson roadmap, right? So he will start trying to exchange with you. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, kayf al-hal, how are you doing, etc., etc. Then we will ask you about your name, how are you, and so on. And we will try to make sure that you differentiate in between masculine and feminine, which is something that's part of lesson number 1. Then from amongst other exercises as well, on lesson number 1 as an example, obviously the level increases, there's different exercises. Here, we make the student translate the sentence in English, then cover the translation and make him repeat the same activity 2-3 times, randomly picking sentences until he is able to do it quickly. Then repeat the same process with the English pronouns. The student should translate them to Arabic, then cover the translation and point to random pronouns. The student should be able to quickly translate them to Arabic. If that's not the case, repeat the process until he's able to do so. And then similar exercises, then make him practice what they just trained on by translating these short sentences. And then as you can see on the screen, for each lesson, the instructor will have a final learning goals checklist. So in this lesson number 1, for example, the student should be able to read fluently short paragraphs with harakat, good understanding of basic salutations, ability to use pronouns correctly, differentiate between the pronouns, and when talking to different genders, grasp the method of forming nominatives, so sentences that start with a noun, sentences with pronouns and nouns. And as you can see, for each lesson, after each lesson, you are going to be tested, you are going to be handheld, you are going to be put to test through all of these different exercises to make sure that you progress as you put it in practice. So you're learning, you're memorizing, you put it into practice, and you have a vetted Arabic teacher that himself will be talking to you in Arabic throughout the process. And little by little, until you reach the 70 plus lessons, you get to be able to learn the Arabic language from 0 to fluency in being able to speak very comfortably the language. So as you have seen, this is how students at Andalus Institute, they go, and after 16 lessons, they are able to fully speak in Arabic by learning from this book, Kashf al-Mufradat. If you're interested into actually learning more about the structure and how it works and the nitty-gritties that I haven't gone over here, go to the first link in the description. It's going to bring you to our website, Andalus Institute. Read through it, watch the video in there so you can learn better on how you can follow a proven step-by-step progress to actually get to the point where you are able to understand the Quran by yourself and understand Islam and have access to the scholars and the scholarly works. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.